Emirates runs one of the biggest international airlines in the world, yet they don't fly a single narrow-body. Not one A320, one 737, nothing smaller than a 300-seat giant. While Delta has over 300 narrow-bodies and Lufthansa lives off its A320s, Emirates says absolutely no thanks. In fact, this is the foundation of a strategy that's either pure brilliance or a ticking time bomb. Because betting everything on massive jets in a world built on smaller planes is aviation heresy. So why does Emirates refuse to fly narrow bodies? Why would an airline that flies to more than 150 destinations make such a radical choice? The mystery of no narrow bodies. It might seem reckless to you. After all, small jets are the lifeline for almost every other global carrier. They feed passengers into big hubs, connect secondary cities, and let airlines squeeze profits out of shorter routes. Without them, most airlines would collapse. Yet somehow Emirates turned this so-called weakness into the cornerstone of its strategy. Let's start with the basics. Narrow bodies typically carry anywhere from 150 to 220 passengers. They are designed for shorter to medium routes, 2 to 6 hours long. They are nimble, cheaper to run, and essential for filling up larger planes later. Wide bodies like the Boeing 777 or the Airbus A380 are massive beasts. They carry between 300 and 600 passengers and are built for long-haul flights lasting 8 to 16 hours. Most airlines need both. Small planes for short runs, big planes for long ones. Emirates went all in on the big ones. And the big reason is geography. Dubai is not just a desert city with a pretty skyline. It is perfectly positioned as a crossroads between Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent. Pull out a map and draw straight lines. London, Sydney, Mumbai, Johannesburg all fall neatly within Dubai's reach. This is one of the most strategic geographic advantages in aviation. Emirates looked at that and thought, why bother with tiny planes shuttling people around when you can funnel the world through one mega hub using only big jets? Its model is perfect here. Emirates does not scatter flights across dozens of smaller airports the way US or European airlines do. Instead, they pull passengers from all over the globe into Dubai and then push them back out on wide-body to wide-body connections. That means someone flying in from Boston on a Boeing 777 might connect directly onto an Airbus A380 bound for Singapore. Every connection, every transfer happens on big jets. There are no small feeders. Think about the scale of this operation. In 2019, before the pandemic shook up the industry, Dubai International Airport handled over 86 million passengers, and nearly every one of them arrived or departed on a wide-body aircraft. That's unheard of. At airports like Atlanta, Frankfurt, or Heathrow, you will see dozens of small planes buzzing around, connecting short routes and secondary markets. In Dubai, it is wide-body giants, one after another, flooding the terminals. And Emirates makes this work through a strategy called banking. They schedule massive waves of arrivals and departures, often at dawn, midday, and late at night. These banks maximize connection opportunities. Hundreds of passengers arrive from Lagos, Cairo, Munich, and Boston at the same time. Within hours, they board connecting flights to Sydney, Bangkok, Manila, or Johannesburg. It is a perfectly timed process that only works because Emirates runs nothing but big planes. The more passengers they funnel through Dubai, the more connections they can offer. The more connections they offer, the more people choose Emirates. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that feeds itself. Now let's flip the question, what if Emirates did use narrow bodies? What if they bought 737s or A320 for regional routes? The problem is that instead of moving 350 to 500 passengers per flight, they will be moving 150 to 200. That immediately weakens the network effect. Fewer passengers per plane means fewer connections in Dubai. The hub loses its gravitational pull, and worse, the costs don't scale down neatly. Landing fees, crew costs, and airport slots don't suddenly become cheaper just because you are flying fewer people. You would spread those costs across fewer tickets, which destroys the economics. This is the part that makes Emirates' refusal of narrow bodies look less like madness and more like strategy. By betting entirely on wide bodies, they achieve economies of scale that few airlines can even dream of. A full A380 flying from Dubai to London can hit seat-mile costs that rival the efficiency of narrow bodies, except it carries twice as many passengers and preserves the luxury image Emirates is known for. That's their strategic design. But let's be real. This is not just about efficiency, it's also about brand. Emirates has spent decades positioning itself as a premium airline. Spacious cabins, lie-flat seats, massive in-flight entertainment systems, and luxury touches like onboard bars and showers. Now imagine stepping off an A380 and onto a cramped single-aisle plane. That would break the brand promise instantly. For Emirates, the absence of narrowbodies is a branding firewall. Everything they fly must reflect the same luxury standard. Small planes simply don't fit that image. Still, the gamble raises questions. Aviation is not a stable business. Demand rises and falls with fuel prices, economic downturns, and unexpected crises like the pandemic. Airlines that can adapt quickly with smaller, flexible aircraft often weather storms better. By locking themselves into only wide bodies, Emirates may have built an empire of scale, but also one with very little room to pivot. If long-haul demand weakens, or if travelers shift towards smaller, more frequent flights, what then? What makes this even more fascinating is how Emirates' strategy stands out against its closest rivals. Qatar Airways, based in Doha, and Etihad, based in Abu Dhabi, both run mixed fleets with narrowbodies included. Turkish Airlines thrives on its massive narrowbody network. It connects hundreds of cities across Europe and Asia before feeding them into long hauls. Emirates is the outlier. It refuses to touch the small plane game. Instead, they double down on their mega hub strategy. It pushes passengers through Dubai with nothing but giants of the sky. The numbers tell the story. Emirates at its peak operated over 260 wide-body aircraft, more than 110 Airbus A380s, and a similar number of Boeing 777s. Compare that to any other airline in the world, where narrowbodies typically outnumber wide-bodies 3 to 1. Emirates flipped that ratio completely on its head, and remarkably, it worked, at least so far. While Emirates is keeping its fleet simple, the rest of the industry is wondering how they are pulling this off. Fleet simplicity. At its core, Emirates built its empire on just a handful of aircraft types. For years, it was basically two: the Boeing 777 and the Airbus A380. More recently, they have added the Airbus A350 to modernize and fill some gaps. But the philosophy hasn't changed. 3 families, all wide bodies. That's it. They don't juggle half a dozen different plane types. Now, why does this matter? Because running an airline is a logistical nightmare. Every new aircraft type brings its own training requirements, spare parts, maintenance manuals, and ground equipment. Pilots must certify for each type, mechanics must learn separate systems, and airports need specialized tools. Most airlines carry that burden every day. Delta operates everything from tiny regional jets to Airbus A350s. United juggles a patchwork of Boeing and Airbus narrowbodies, mid-hauls, and wide-bodies. Lufthansa has such a mixed fleet that their maintenance bills look like a phone book. Emirates looked at that chaos and decided to stay away from this chaos. With only wide-bodies in play, they unlocked one of the most powerful cost advantages in aviation: fleet commonality. Here's what that actually means in practice. Pilots can often switch between variants with minimal retraining. A 777 captain is not far from flying another 777, and training a large pool of crew across the same aircraft type gives Emirates huge scheduling flexibility. If a flight is delayed and crew rosters need adjusting, it is much easier when most of your pilots are certified on the same machines. That's a hidden weapon many airlines don't have. Not only that, but maintenance becomes dramatically simpler. Instead of tracking thousands of unique part numbers across dozens of aircraft types, Emirates only needs to manage a smaller set. That means fewer warehouses full of rare components, fewer supplier headaches, and lower costs. And because they buy so many of each aircraft, they get bulk pricing power. Airbus and Boeing cannot ignore an order of 100 aircraft. Emirates negotiates from a position of dominance. When they buy parts, they buy in bulk. When they negotiate contracts, they demand better terms. That leverage adds up to millions saved every year. And then there is operational agility. Let's say it's 2 in the morning in Dubai, and a 777 suddenly goes technical before a flight to Bangkok. At most airlines, that would trigger chaos. Wrong aircraft, wrong crew certifications, mismatched seating layouts. At Emirates, they just roll out another wide body. The crew is already qualified, the systems are familiar, and passengers still get the wide-body experience. That ability to swap planes on short notice is priceless. It keeps Dubai humming day and night. But the benefits don't stop at logistics and costs. Fleet simplicity bleeds straight into branding. Every Emirates flight feels premium because it is premium. Wide bodies bring higher ceilings, twin aisles, and more space to deliver that signature Emirates service, from business class lounges to onboard showers. This consistency is the brand identity they have cultivated for decades. Now think about the alternative. Imagine you step off an A380 with onboard bars and showers, then connect to a cramped single-aisle plane with no legroom and a tiny galley. The drop in experience would be too much. That's why every passenger gets the wide-body treatment, no matter where they are flying. That reinforces the perception that Emirates equals luxury. No exceptions. Of course, none of this comes without risks. Let's look at the economics. A Boeing 777-300ER or Airbus A380 only makes sense when it's full. Those seat-mile costs, the ones that rival narrow-bodies, depend on having hundreds of passengers on board. On core routes like Dubai to London, Dubai to Sydney, or Dubai to Bangkok, filling those planes is no problem. Demand is huge, and the connections feed each other. But what happens when demand dips? Suddenly, those same wide bodies look bloated. The costs per seat skyrocket if planes are not full, and Emirates doesn't have smaller aircraft to fall back on. This became painfully clear during the pandemic. Long-haul demand collapsed almost overnight, and airlines with smaller, flexible fleets had at least some room to adapt. Emirates parked dozens of A380. For a moment, their simplicity looked like a weakness. Wide bodies became a liability when there were not enough people to fill them. That's the double edge of fleet commonality. It creates massive efficiency when things are stable, but in times of crisis, it can lock you into a rigid model. And let's be honest, aviation is rarely stable. Fuel prices spike, geopolitical crises reroute traffic, and passenger behavior changes. The industry thrives on unpredictability, so maybe Emirates has tied itself too tightly to one vision. Still, you cannot ignore the brilliance of what they have built. A full A380 out of Dubai to Heathrow can achieve seat-mile costs as low as 5 cents, rivaling even the leanest narrow-body operations. But instead of 200 passengers, it is carrying 500 or more. Let's also not forget the psychological impact of scale. Seeing a line of A380s glistening under the desert sun is more than impressive. It signals to the world that Emirates is in a league of its own. Other airlines dabble in wide bodies. Emirates lives by them. That image has become part of its global identity, just as much as its cabin service or in-flight entertainment. Competitors cannot easily copy this. Lufthansa can't suddenly ditch its A320. Delta cannot scrap 300 narrow bodies. United cannot walk away from domestic feeder flights. They are locked into their models because of geography and market needs. In short, fleet simplicity has been one of Emirates' greatest weapons, but it also created a dependency on filling huge planes day after day. And that brings us to the next puzzle. If Emirates refuses to fly narrow bodies, how do they cover the short-haul and regional markets that almost every other airline needs to survive? The answer lies in one of the smartest partnerships in aviation, FlyDubai, solving the short-haul puzzle. Founded in 2008, FlyDubai is Dubai's very own low-cost carrier. But unlike the budget airlines most people imagine, this one was born with a bigger purpose: to complement Emirates, not compete with it. FlyDubai runs a fleet of more than 92 Boeing 737s, primarily the newer 737 MAX models, flying to over 120 destinations across the Middle East, Africa, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe. Most of these flights are within a 6-hour radius of Dubai, which is the perfect playground for narrow bodies. Now, the genius part is that Emirates and FlyDubai signed a deep partnership in 2017, one that goes far beyond the usual code shares you see between airlines. They integrated their networks at Dubai International Airport, syncing schedules so passengers could transfer seamlessly between a FlyDubai short-haul flight and an Emirates long-haul service. In practice, that means someone can fly FlyDubai from Kathmandu to Dubai and then connect straight onto an Emirates A380 bound for New York, all in one booking. With bags checked through and boarding passes issued at the start, to passengers it feels like a single network. That's huge, because it gives Emirates all the benefits of narrow-body coverage without ever operating a narrow-body itself. FlyDubai becomes the feeder airline, pulling passengers in from secondary cities and smaller markets, while Emirates takes over the long-haul segments where the wide bodies shine. And because both airlines share the same home base and even operate from the same terminal, the handoff is smooth. Passengers don't feel like they are jumping between two disconnected carriers. It is one hub, one system, but two brands. From a business perspective, this setup solves a massive problem: cannibalization. If Emirates had decided to launch its own narrow-body fleet, it would have clashed directly with FlyDubai, driving down fares on short-haul routes and eating into each other's margins. Instead, By dividing responsibilities, both airlines can focus on their strengths. FlyDubai runs an efficient, low-cost model on short-haul flights, while Emirates invests in the luxury, long-haul experience. Together, they cover the market without tripping over each other. And make no mistake, the partnership has transformed FlyDubai. Before 2017, it was just another regional low-cost carrier, competing with the likes of Air Arabia or Jazeera Airways. After linking with Emirates, its profile skyrocketed. It was a crucial cog in a global network, feeding passengers from Tbilisi, Baku, or Colombo into Emirates flights heading across the Atlantic or to East Asia. In fact, in just 2024, FlyDubai carried over 15.4 million passengers, with a significant chunk transferring onto Emirates. One of the most telling examples of how this partnership works can be seen during big events. Take the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Dubai positioned itself as a base for fans, with FlyDubai operating shuttle flights into Doha. Many of those fans arrived in Dubai on Emirates long-haul services, connected to FlyDubai for the short hop, and then returned the same way. This major event perfectly showed how the two airlines can scale together for global events. Of course, this arrangement is not bulletproof. The partnership works brilliantly as long as FlyDubai stays healthy and aligned with Emirates' strategy. If FlyDubai were ever to stumble financially or operationally, Emirates would suddenly feel the gap in regional connectivity. And let's not forget, narrowbody aircraft are becoming more advanced. The Airbus A321XLR, for example, can fly routes up to 8 hours long. It is blurring the line between short and long haul. Rivals could use that flexibility to challenge Emirates in ways FlyDubai alone might not be able to counter. Still, for now, the Emirates-FlyDubai partnership stands as one of the smartest strategic moves in modern aviation. So when you see an Emirates A380 lined up next to a FlyDubai 737 at Dubai International, know that you are seeing a carefully engineered system, one that turns what could have been Emirates' biggest weakness into one of its greatest advantages. So what do you think about Emirates' strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. And before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the latest aviation updates. We will keep you in the loop. Goodbye for now.